Okay, so we are carrying on, and I think we are starting with chapter 3, actually. We've done 1, 2, yes. So today's chapter is quite, I think, significant for everybody to understand, and it's the effect of thought on our health and on the body. So most of us have grown up in this environment where we believe that we are contracting illness and disease from outside of ourselves. And it's germs, bacteria, viruses. I mean, there's a lot of fear going on at the moment with COVID and just everything that we're experiencing now with the pandemic. And people believe that they are contracting this from outside of themselves. And yes, there is a virus, I'm not denying that. But what I am saying, and what James Allen is describing, is that the susceptibility of our bodies to these external conditions are in fact determined and or exacerbated by our thought processes. Now, this is quite significant if we begin to pay attention to that. So let's see what he says. He starts off by saying, the body is the servant of the mind. So getting us back to that place as that the mind is the creator. The mind is what drives every action, every response, every message within every cell of the body. Remembering that the body has been made in such a way that it can supply its own healing and its own nurturing completely. It is able to take up whatever it needs. Each cell is able to orchestrate exactly the function, each function to perfection. That's the way that we are created. And so what affects then, or affects our body's ability to perform its function perfectly? And this is what James Allen describes. The body is the servant of the mind. So the mind is the thing that directs the body, and it's working. It obeys, it being the body, obeys the operations of the mind, whether they are deliberately chosen or automatically expressed. Now, science has proven that 90% of our thoughts are in fact unconscious or automatic expression. So we only really have control over 10%, conscious control over 10% of our mind's thinking. So he says, at the bidding of unlawful thoughts, and remember with the use of the word unlawful, those will be thoughts, negative thoughts, thoughts of anger, thoughts of fear, thoughts of frustration, lower vibration thinking. So those slow, low vibration thoughts. The body sinks rapidly into disease and decay. So it actually affects the body's ability to stay healthy and stay in balance. But similarly, at the command of glad and beautiful thoughts, so thoughts of what's good, thoughts of what's positive, thoughts of what is uplifting, at the command of glad and beautiful thoughts, it becomes clothed with youthfulness and beauty. So this is in fact the fountain of youth, our thoughts, making it even more critical to be in a place where you're able to control your thinking and where you are using focused thoughts to make sure that you direct your thinking. Okay, so disease and health, like circumstances, are rooted in thought. So now he's saying it's not all of those things that we think that are outside of our control, our health and our circumstances, we believe that are outside of our control. They are indeed not. James Allen says it is all rooted in thought. So thought becomes the all-powerful creator of our whole life. Sickly thoughts will express themselves through a sickly body. Sickly again, low vibration thoughts. Thoughts of fear have been known to kill a man as speedily as a bullet. And they are continually killing thousands of people just as surely, though less rapidly. So what he's saying is, it is the thought of fear that is affecting the body's ability to maintain balance and to reflect or deflect any harmful influences from the external environment. The people who live in fear of disease are the people who get it. Now, how often have we seen that people who are fearful of a certain and specific condition actually ends up contracting that? And not only in the physical body, but circumstances as well. That which you are most fearful of is often that which you attract into your life. And not everybody connects the dots to pull it back to that unconscious fear or thought process. Anxiety quickly demoralizes the whole body and lays it open to the entrance of disease. So he's saying, yes, there is disease out there. There is virus, there is bacteria, there is danger in our external to our bodies. But what opens up the body's susceptibility? What makes it susceptible to take up those conditions or those outside influences? And that, he says, is anxiety. Anxiety. What is anxiety other than a thought process of low vibration? Anxiety is us projecting into the future our belief of what can go wrong. So it is an uncontrolled thought process. He says, anxiety quickly demoralizes the whole body and lays it open to the entrance of disease, while impure thoughts, even if not physically indulged, so even if unconscious, will soon shatter the nervous system. So all conditions that are due to that is a cause of our nervous system not functioning the way it should, which in fact is most disease, caused by impure thoughts and an uncontrolled thought process. From this, we can see how absolutely critical it is to get into a state where we begin to control our thinking. Strong, pure, and happy thoughts build up the body in vigor and grace. So what do we need to build up our strength in our body and our ability to avoid any illness and disease? Strong, pure, and happy thoughts. The body is a delicate and plastic instrument, pliable. The body is just energy in motion, which responds readily to the thoughts by which it is impressed. So how do we impress thoughts? We take the conscious thought, and the more we think it becomes unconscious. It becomes automatic through repetition. Just like riding a bicycle becomes automatic. Driving a car, driving home, driving between work and home or to school and back becomes automatic. How often do you get home and you think, I can't even remember driving here? Because it's become automatic through so much repetition. So as we repeat those thoughts, it becomes automatic and it becomes impressed on the subconscious mind. And the subconscious mind is what regulates the body's ability to function to its full potential. The body is a delicate and plastic instrument which responds readily to the thoughts by which it is impressed, and habits of thought will produce their own effects, good or bad, upon it. Now, isn't this absolutely powerful? This is basically saying that each one of us is our own physician. Each one of us is our own doctor or our own killer. Men will continue to have impure and poisoned blood as long as they propagate unclean thoughts. Yet all we see in the news is death, disruption, destruction, illness, disease, anger, fighting, war. How is it that we think that we can maintain health and vitality when we fill our minds with so much of impurity? If we can call that impurity, define all of that as impurity. Out of a clean heart comes a clean life and a clean body. Out of a defiled mind, and what is a defiled mind? A defiled mind is a mind filled with war, unhappiness, destruction, poverty, everything that is in our news every day. Out of a defiled mind, excuse me, proceeds a defiled life and corrupt body. So it basically, like when you put a virus into a computer system and it disrupts all the files, it corrupts all the files. Every impure thought or thought that is not of beauty, of expansion, of harmony, of love, of loveliness, of purity. Every thought is like a virus that corrupts our physical system. It is a corrupting effect. Thought, he says, is the fount of action. So what does he mean by this? Each action of the body is in fact directed and instructed by thought. Thought is the fount of action, life, and manifestation. So not only the body, but everything that you see in your life. Make the fountain pure. In other words, make the thought pure and focused and controlled, and all will be pure. All will be pure. All your experience will be good. All your manifestation will be what you want. This is the power of thinking. Change of diet will not help a man who will not change his thoughts. So we can go on diets. How often have we gone on diets? Up and down, up and down, up and down. The next diet comes. Yes, we go on it. 7 days, you lose the weight, you pick it up again. Because what happens? We do not actually change the thought process that is regulating the body. That is that paradigm that is in cybernetics. It's a cybernetic instrument that is sitting in the subconscious mind. It's that level, it's that autopilot. A plane has got a cybernetic instrument, and it's called the autopilot, and it is programmed up front, and it keeps that plane en route. So turbulence comes and it knocks it off course. And what happens? The autopilot kicks in and brings it back on the route. Now, if our cybernetic instrument, whatever it is programmed at, and those are your beliefs, I am a sickly person, I am always unwell, I am subject to my circumstances and things outside of myself. These are beliefs. Henry Ford said, whether you believe you can or you can't, you are right. Whatever you believe is true for you. It is your relative truth. It is not the truth because it's not true for someone else and for everyone else. The only absolute truth, and that is what sets you free, that is what is true for everyone, no matter who they are, where they are, and of what race or nationality they are. We want to get to the absolute truth. Joy, happiness, peacefulness, harmonious thinking, and controlled thought is what gives us life. Life in abundance, life in health, life in prosperity, life the way that we want it. Peace that transcends all understanding, it's described as. Now, wouldn't we all want to be in that state? And what James Allen describes here is that we have got control to get to that state. It's in our ability. It's been given to each one of us. It's not something we have to earn. It's not something that we have to work for. It's something that we have been given. The ability to control our minds and our thoughts. But we are not taught that. We believe that we are subject to events and circumstances outside of ourselves. And this is the one belief that we can take from this book, the one understanding, that deep understanding, that we are, in effect, we've been given the ability to control our lives, whichever way you want it to go. Whatever you see in your life has been created by you and by the way that your thought processes are working. So are we choosing to carry on with having a corrupted files, virus thoughts, or are we going to install a program of protection against those uncontrolled virus thoughts? If you would perfect your body, guard your mind, if you would renew your body, beautify your mind. So what does it mean? He says, if you want to perfect your body, then guard your mind. How are you thinking? If you want to renew your body, so remake it. Remember, the body, every cell in the body is recreated. I don't know within, I think, a year or even less. Each cell in the body is actually replaced. Now, why is it the same? Because you replace it on memory. Why not create it with a new replacement? This is the power of thinking, he says. If you want to renew your body, beautify your mind. Thoughts of malice, envy, disappointment, despondency rob the body of its health and grace. A sour face does not come by chance. It is made by sour thoughts. Wrinkles that mar are drawn by folly, pride, and passion, he says. But passion meaning not to follow your passion, but passion in this sense, meaning following drives of uncontrolled thinking. He says, I know a woman of 96 who has the bright, innocent face of a girl. But I know a man well under middle age whose face is drawn into inharmonious contours. Now you might say, well, that's just my genes. But when we begin to understand what genes are the physical expression of uncontrolled thinking that gets transferred upon conception to the next generation. That is what genes are. Now that's powerful, because what it actually implies is that through our thinking, we can change our gene activity and that which we transfer onto future generations. That's how powerful it is. He says, the one is the result of a sweet and sunny disposition. The other is the outcome of passion and discontent. So wild thoughts are uncontrolled thoughts and discontent. As you cannot have a sweet and wholesome abode unless you admit the air and sunshine freely into your rooms, compares it to letting the sun in and sunlight in. So a strong body and a bright, happy, and serene countenance can only result from the free admittance into the mind of thoughts of joy and goodwill and serenity. The last chapter of this book is actually titled Serenity. It's a very short chapter. And if you want to begin to bring thoughts of serenity into your everyday life, my suggestion is take this chapter and write it out, physically copy it and write it out every day for 30 days and see the difference it makes, because you begin to fill your mind with thoughts of serenity. This is something one of my mentors has suggested to me. And when I started doing that, I could see the thoughts, my thought processes beginning to change. Now, this is an act that you can do to begin to control your thinking. Take that last chapter, Serenity, and begin today by writing it out. It's not long. It's only got about 7 paragraphs in it. Write it out every day from today. Test this for yourself. James Allen says, on the faces of the aged, there are wrinkles made by sympathy, others by strong and pure thoughts, and others are carved by passional wild thoughts. Who cannot distinguish them? We can all see when we look at different people, older people, mature people, the aged. Some of them look serene, beautiful, peaceful. Others look haggard, drawn, as if they've suffered their whole life. And what do we suffer? Suffer comes from the way that we think. All our suffering comes from the thought processes in our mind. We always have a choice of how we want to experience our circumstances and that which our environment. We have the choice. There is a book written by Viktor Frankl, Man's Search for Meaning. And in it, he was a Jewish psychologist in a German concentration camp during that time. And that he saw many atrocities. He was subject to people and events outside of himself. But the one thing that he concluded upon was that his mind, in his mind, he had a choice of how he wanted to experience each day. And it is that choice that carried him through and that created the peace of mind that he experienced. A beautiful book, a short little book to read. Man's Search for Meaning, Viktor Frankl. With those who have lived righteously, age is calm, peaceful, and softly mellowed, like the setting sun. How beautiful is that? Like the setting sun. He says, I have recently seen a philosopher on his deathbed. He was not old except in years. He was thinking of things that are righteous, truthful, beautiful. He died as sweetly and peacefully as he had lived. There is no physician like cheerful thought for dissipating the ills of the body. There is no comforter to compare with goodwill for dispersing the shadows of grief and sorrow. To live continually in the thoughts of ill will, cynicism, suspicion, and envy is to be confined in a self-made prison hole. But to think well of all, to be cheerful with all, and to patiently learn to find the good in all. That means politicians. That means that person that cuts you off in the traffic. That means that person who embarrasses you, who humiliates you, who angers you. To be cheerful with all, and to patiently learn to find the good in all. Such unselfish thoughts are the very portals of heaven, and to dwell day by day in thoughts of peace toward every creature will bring abounding peace to their possessor. Now, I think this is the most powerful teaching that James Allen gives us in this book. Our ability to control our own well-being in totality through our thinking. And that is the whole chapter. So I am not even going to go on with them. We'll start with the next chapter next week, which is thought and purpose. And we begin to look at purpose and how we must ban all feelings of doubt and fear out of our life. Because he says, thoughts of doubt and fear never accomplish anything and never can. They always lead to failure. Purpose, energy, power to do, and all strong thoughts cease when doubt and fear creep in. But he says the spring of life comes from the knowledge that we can do. We have been enabled to do everything that we determine ourselves, put a goal for ourselves to do. There is no such thing as not having ability and not being able. We can do, he says. So I'm going to stop our recording here. Have a brilliant week. I'll see you next week.